Hello people, this is Sonali, the Melodramatic Bookworm. If you've been here before, welcome back, and if you're new to my channel, welcome to the Melodramatic Bookworm family. I'm here today with my October 2023 wrap up, and I must say October was a great reading month for me. I read 15 books in October, which I will take you through in this video. Not all of them, but I think 3 of them I will be putting off for a vlog that I want to put up as soon as I get those books from the library. But I will be talking to you about 12 out of those 15 books in this video. Also, by great reading month, I don't just mean the number of books that I read, I also mean the quality. I had 5 stars in October 2023, and that is saying something, because for a long time this year I hadn't had a proper 5-star. Like, I didn't have a book that I could look back on and think, oh my god, that book has my whole heart, and I found 5 of them in this month. So okay, so without any further ado, let's dive right into this video and let me share with you the 12 of the 15 books that I read in October 2023. First up is Crying in Hmart by Michelle Zauner. This was the first 5-star of the month, and oh my god, this book, it just splintered something inside me. This is Michelle Zauner's memoir about her relationship with her mother who died of cancer. How she recollects everything that comes with being born into an Asian family, and the pressures that we find about being an immigrant in a different country, being an Asian immigrant in a different country. The way Michelle Zauner spoke about her mom, about everything that went on in her life, the things she discovers about her mom and her relationship, how it ebbed and flowed and all of that, it settled inside of me, and I cannot look at this book and not go, oh my god, I'm going to cry. It's a very short book, about 200 pages I think, but in those 200 pages you will find yourself yearning for home, yearning for your mother's arms, just wanting to run to her and say, I'm here, I'm going to take care of you. Next was The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse by Charlie Maxey, and this is a very short book. It's illustrated, and in this we see a boy come upon a mole, a fox and a horse, and how they get together and how they interact with each other. I mean, it's not a story as such, it's not a linear story, it's about affirmations. It's just so simple and beautiful and life affirming, and you just want to go inside that book and stay there because of how positive you feel. And it just made me smile because it gave me so much strength to move forward. This was a book that I'm so glad to have read. I must admit that I felt a little disappointed that it finished like this, that there was no overarching story as such, but maybe the overarching story is about how you find your friends and how you stick by the ones you care about. Next was another 5-star read, and that was The Museum of Failures by Thriti Umrigar. I love Thriti Umrigar's books. This is the second of her books that I've read. The Museum of Failures is about Remy Wadia, who is now settled in America. He has an American wife, etc. But he's in India to adopt a child. He's in Mumbai. On the sidelines, he thinks, okay, as an afterthought, he'll go visit his mother. His relationship with his mother isn't that great. And now that his father is also gone, he's no more, his relationship with her seems to have dwindled. So when he finds out that she is like really not well and she has been admitted to a hospital and she has stopped speaking, he goes to visit her, and then he decides out of a sense of duty that he has to stay. But one photograph just comes tumbling out of a book at, you could call it an opportune time or fate or whatever it is, but that opens up a whole crest of family secrets, and what happens towards the end of all of this forms this entire story. And this was one of the most gut-wrenching books I've read this year. This is about how you see family, how you react to them, how you respond to them, and how it is true that you don't know a person in their entirety. You don't know what truths they are sitting upon. And when you do find out, it becomes so difficult to reconcile yourself to the fact that this person is the same person, but there's also a lot of backstory that makes them them. So in a nutshell, The Museum of Failures is a story of truth, of life, love, loss, forgiveness, and all of this coming together that will turn into a wrecking ball that will just crash into you when you're least expecting it. Like, the first half of the book was, but I knew how Thriti Umriga's writing develops over the pages, so I kept my patience and I was rewarded handsomely towards the end. Next was A Long Game by Elena Armas. I have read Elena Armas's books before. The first book that she's ever written, her debut book, The Spanish Love Deception, I didn't like at all. And I read The American Roommate Experiment this year, which I really enjoyed. So I was like in between about The Long Game. But this is the story of Adeline, who is a manager at her father's football team. But she has now been pulled up because of one little incident which involved punching the mascot of the team. And now her father is sending her away to a different place to prove herself again. And when she reaches there, she finds that this team that she has to manage to prove herself is a bunch of 9-year-olds. But there's also a soccer legend, that is Cameron, who is there coaching them. She's supposed to manage, he's supposed to coach, but they don't see eye to eye. So what happens over this whole period of time during which Adeline has to prove herself forms this entire story. The way Adeline and Cameron's relationship progressed, how it took the next steps, how it blossomed, what happened in the end, it was really entertaining. But I must say that there was a lot of roundabout stuff. Things were going in directions that they didn't need to go at all. I just wanted there to be more crispness to the story. Although this is nothing but rambling, but sometimes she goes off on tangents that are just not needed. I really enjoyed how it progressed and how they were communicative, and I saw both points of view and what was going on, and etc, etc, etc. But I also wish that it was more crisper and a little bit well written. Next is a book that I had been putting off for way too long, it feels like, but I finally ended up reading it in October, and I've even done a reading vlog for it. And that book is The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman and illustrated by Elise Hurst. I've done a full reading vlog for this book. If you'd like to go check that out, link here as well as in the description box below. So this is the story of the unnamed narrator who has just come out of a funeral. He sits in his car and he goes around the town that he used to live in, and he ends up going to the Hemstocks house because he remembers the ocean at the end of the lane. He goes and sits down on a wooden bench by the ocean at the end of the lane, and he is transported back through his memories to the past when he was like 7 years old. He reminisces his relationship with his parents, with his sister, and how a man came to live in their house, but a few days later they found him dead in their car at the end of the lane. So what transpires after them, how he meets Letty, how he is transported into a world that he sees so many more colors of, so many more things that are there apart from what you see with your eyes. And this is a book that it's just so beautiful, and I mean that in a literal sense, in literal tangible sense. If you go watch that vlog, you will see some of the illustrations that are from this book, and those illustrations I just had to stop and stare and take it all in before moving forward, and I didn't want to move forward, but I did, and I ended up reading the story. And you see, Neil Gaiman is a master of this. He is a master of storytelling. He tells it in a simple manner, and in that simplicity he brings out everything about the world and he packs it in. He will hand deliver it to you. My next read was one that I was so excited to read, and I got a gifted copy from Pan Macmillan Australia, so thank you Pan Mac for that. And that book is Before We Say Goodbye by Toshikazu Kawaguchi and translated into English by Jeffrey Trosselot. This is the fourth in the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series. I thought this was the last book, but I've since learned that there's also a fifth book that was published earlier this year or something. I am so happy for that, I must say. But this book moves back from Cafe Donna Donna, which we went to in Before Your Memory Fades, and we move back to Cafe Funiculi Funicula. And here we see 4 people who are trying to make right some things that they have or have not done. So it's more of the sense that people who haven't been able to say goodbye, they want to travel back in time and fix something. They won't be able to change anything because the cafe has some rules, one of which is that you cannot change time. So to see all of these people trying to make something right, if not tangibly, it's at least that they want to be able to say things that they weren't able to say to the people they love, and to say goodbye to people, and I'll keep it to people who left them. To see this, it was really emotional, and I almost lost it. But I must say that this is not as great as books 1 and 3. Unfortunately, I loved the first one, Before the Coffee Gets Cold, and the third one, Before Your Memory Fades. I didn't like number 2, and this seems to go back to that quality of book number 2, Tales from the Cafe. But the quality of the stories is such that they burrow into you and they will stay there. You will still feel warmth towards this book, even if you don't like the writing style or the narration or the translation style. And that is what happened with me. This book I gave 4 stars, despite all of these complaints that I had. My next read was a DNF, and that was The House in the Pines by Anna Reyes. And this was so weird. I don't even remember this thing properly because it feels like I've actively been trying to push everything about this book out of my mind. But this is a story of a woman who is depressed, who is on antidepressants, but yeah, see, I can't even tell you what this is about because I read about 70-75 pages of this book and it just felt like the writing was too lazy. It was too like, I'm going to write whatever I want to write and you're going to read it, no questions asked. And I'm like, that won't fly with me, ma'am. And I put it aside and I returned it to the library. That's all I can say about that book. Next is Twisted Hate, the third in the Twisted series by Anna Huang. See, if you're going to come at me saying that why are you reading it even after this, I told you that I would torture myself. I told you in my September wrap up that this was going to happen, and this happened. The sad part is that there's still one book remaining. I still have to read Twisted Lies. Twisted Hate was a story of Josh Chen, who is Ava Chen's brother, Ava from Twisted Love, and Jules Ambrose, who is one of Ava's best friends. Josh and Jules hate each other, but circumstances throw them together. They have to start working together and they find that there is a convenient arrangement that they can make. Jules's past catches up with her, but when she tells him or when he finds out, what is going to happen? How does this hate transform into love? That's what we are supposed to see. And oh my god, Josh just pisses me off. Granted, he isn't as bad as Alex Volkov, but still, girl, if you go and tell him something about you and he reacts in the most violent ways and he uses your past against you, what are you doing, babes? Anyway, so I did torture myself. That's what I wanted to say. That's it. So last month I wanted to read Percy Jackson and the Chalice of the Gods, which is the 6th in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, and I was so excited. I'm still excited, but I found out that this order went Percy Jackson and the Olympians, then Heroes of Olympus, and then Percy Jackson and the Chalice of the Gods. There was a sequence to it, and if you know me, you'll know that I will not read Percy Jackson and the Chalice of the Gods without reading Heroes of Olympus. I'm doing it right, and I have read 2 books so far. The first 2 books in the Heroes of Olympus series. The first one was part of my October wrap-up, and that is Heroes of Olympus, The Lost Hero by Rick Riordan, obviously. Let me tell you this. Anytime you ask me to read a Rick Riordan book, I will give up everything else and I will start reading this. This is the story of Jason Grace. Jason Grace has woken up in a school bus holding a girl called Piper's hand, and there is another guy called Leo Valdez, and they have a teacher. The teacher, Coach Hedge, he is looking at Jason Grace like, but Jason has no idea, no memory of who he is. Piper is saying that she was his girlfriend, Leo is supposed to be one of his best friends, and all of this is going on. And then they go to the Grand Canyon Skywalk, and there they are attacked by some demon spirits. Jason He takes out a coin, flips it, and out comes a sword. And he knows how to handle the sword. It's chaos everywhere. Jason, Piper, and Leo are left outside on the skywalk. Coach Hedge is battling for them. He is fighting for them, and he is carried away by those spirits. Jason, Piper, and Leo, they have to figure out what's happening. But suddenly they see a chariot, a winged chariot approaching them, and Annabeth is there. And she takes these three to Camp Half-Blood, where they narrate their experiences to Chiron. So they have this sort of understanding. They have a meeting. They come to an understanding that there is a quest that they have to go on in order to uncover the truth about what is happening. And during that time, maybe they'll find the missing kid, who is also Annabeth's boyfriend. His name was Percy Jackson, I think its name was. So what exactly is going on? And now Jason, Piper, and Leo have to go on this quest. They have to defeat monsters. They have to do a lot of things basically, and save themselves and find out what happened to Jason. Returning to this universe is always so much fun, because there's so much wit, there's so much action, so much just sassiness, plain sassiness. I think my narration of what the book is about was longer than what my review is going to be, but this was just so much fun, man. I loved this book, and I immediately started on Son of Neptune as well, and that is a different level. So either way, Rick Riordan always gets a thumbs up. My next read was another 5-star read, and oh my god, this book was Emergin, obviously, by Becky Albertalli, and this is such a fabulous book. It is written very simply, very easy language, but it talks about so many important topics. It talks about queerness, about queer baiting, about gatekeeping queerness, and there's so much more. And I think this is based on Becky Albertalli's own experiences about access on the internet, forcing her to do things she wasn't ready for. In this book, we see Imogen, who goes to meet her friend Lily at college, and Lily now has a whole batch of queer friends, and she is thriving. And Imogen goes there, and she believes she is a straight person. She's an ally. She's a fierce ally, and she just wants to do the right thing. She doesn't want to overpower queer voices. She doesn't want to insert her voice into spaces that are queer, because that's not right. And she goes there believing that she is straight, she's all of this and all. But there is one person called Tessa in Lily's new friend group who Imogen hits it off with, and now she is questioning everything that she ever knew. And this is a book that is so, oh my god, in its simplicity, it addresses, like I mentioned before, queerness and who is eligible to talk about queerness. What is queer baiting? How do you do queer baiting? Is this right or is this right? Can it be called queer baiting if a person plays a queer role? For example, actors, if an actor plays a queer role as a straight person, but then they are forced to come out as queer after this whole thing. It makes you think a lot. There are so many places where I was like, I just put the book down and I went, I don't think that's for me to decide because I'm not queer, but it raises so many relevant questions. There's so much underlying tension, there's so much of chaos, there's so much of self-discovery, understanding oneself, that is universal. And this book has it in hordes. One of my favorite books of this year, of all time, and I'm going to revisit it, that's for sure. Next was a book that has a strange premise but not so strange, and that book is Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. This is about Lillian and Madison, who become good friends at their boarding school, but Lillian has to leave because of some circumstances, and they lose touch, although they do write to each other from time to time. But years later, Madison has summoned Lillian and she offers her a job. The job is to look after Madison's husband's kids with an ex-wife. But there's a caveat. These kids, whenever agitated, they burst into flames. And Lillian embarks on this journey. She has never looked after children before, but she embarks on this journey. She tries to connect with the kids, etc, etc, etc. There's a lot of things going on, trial and error, what works with them, what happens that makes them burst into flames. What exactly is going on? Lillian has to figure out. So how does Lillian handle these kids? How does she make sure that they don't burst into flames and set everything on fire? Forms this entire story. It is good. It is nice. But I think that's the best that I can come up with it in terms of writing style. But the concept itself of an adult caring for children and knowing how to handle them, knowing how to calm them down, knowing how to reassure them about the world, that I really liked the way it was handled in here. I just think that overall it just felt like a Dear Diary thing to write this book, and it felt like the author was just writing and writing and writing and let's see where it goes types. It's just that the overall concept felt a little flimsy to me. I mean, I know that there's a lot of important topics in here about wealth-based favoritism, about how poor people can be made to be scapegoats, to take the fall for privileged people. It touches on all the subjects, but it just felt a little... And combine it with the writing style, and this is one weird book that I still don't know what to think of. It's good, but it's also but so maybe I should be thankful that it's not bad. The last book I read in October, but it's technically November because I finished reading it sometime on the 1st of November, but I'm going to include this in October because bulk of it I read during that month. But that book was Something Bad Is Going to Happen by Jessie Stephens. I wouldn't say it's great, but it is impactful in the way that it talks about mental health, about women's mental health. And this is the story of Adela, who is going through a lot of emotional turmoil, a lot of mental turmoil. On the cusp of her 30th year, she is in a psychiatric unit and she is recovering over there. And throughout the book, in different timeline chapters, we go through her 20s, her relationship with her mom, her relationship with her best friend, the men that she chooses to be in her life. There's a lot of angst here because she is depressive, but she also is at a point where she self-sabotages a lot. For example, the men in her life, the way she treats her best friends, etc. There's a lot of things going on. So what goes through her mind through all of this forms this entire story. It's not first person, but you find yourself peeking into her mind. Either good or bad, doesn't matter. She's making these decisions. When the decisions are bad, they are bad. How is her chronic tendency to sabotage herself, where does it take her, forms this entire story. And I must say, even though this is not the best book out there, it is a great book because there were so many places where I was identifying very hard, even though the situations are different. I feel like this is a true depiction of what depression looks like. It isn't the truest depiction because there are different ways in which people experience depression, but you feel the void, the black hole that is within Adela in this book. You see that and you just go to reach for her, and then your hand is scalded and you move away. You curse her, but then you go back to her because you feel sorry for her. You want to read and find out what happened to her. And that is something that I really liked reading, the way the author has written this story. The way she has made Adela into not someone who conforms to the societal ideal of a depressive person, if that's even a thing. And when you are constantly in that mindset, you always have this niggling voice saying that something bad is going to happen. Really liked it. I would recommend that you read this if you want to get a glimpse into the inner workings of a depressive mind. So those, plus the other books that I mentioned, were the books that I read in October 2023. There are 3 other books that I also read, but I am saving it for a vlog that I'm hoping will go up this month. So just keep your fingers crossed for me as well. But which of these books have you read? Which ones do you want to read? What books did you read in October? Did you find any favorites? Did you find any least favorites? I hope not. Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, please like it and share it to spread the word. And if you like my content and would like to see more from me, don't forget to hit subscribe and click on the bell icon beside the subscribe button to get notified as and when I post new videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and add melodrama to your life.